Greetings, how are you? I just wanted to give some commentary on what you guys saw today. If you saw the video down below, and it's really simple. All right, as soon as you can get out of the indoctrination world that you currently are stuck in and subject to, which is a limitation of your own mind, as soon as you can get rid of the thought process of somehow a fictitious entity having power over you, you can stand up. And it's really, really simple. You got to learn how to crawl, of course, before you can walk. But if you can just get the basics, the very basics. I'm a man, okay? If there's another man that has the power to tell me what to do absent a crime, come forward and show your delegation of authority, where it comes from, how you got it, when you got it, why you have it, all right? Now, today, I had made a private agreement that is absolutely binding under Article 1, Section 10, which doesn't grant me the right to contract at will. It protects my unalienable right to contract at will without government intrusion or the intrusion of any other freaking corporation. Now, if they don't want to do business with this man because the way he acquired perfect title from another man, then they don't have to. But he is not as knowledgeable and learned as I am, so he will struggle. He will end up in court. Some gun-toting moron will no doubt pull him over, and some lawyer will string him up and fleece him. All right? So that's why I was in there today. Because this man wants to gift his property to the DMV and the state registry, which is his prerogative. All right? And we hold no ill will or animosity to U.S. citizens who wish to be U.S. citizens at all. Okay? It's not our position to alienate somebody who wishes to comply and conform. That's all fine and dandy. But in the midst of him trying to acquire his colorable title through their sinister organization, through taxation, he stumbled into a problem. I gotta find something else to hold this up. Hold on. Get me a heavier cut back here. Yeah, we're out in the shop, so we'll improvise. Oh, you son of a gun. Hold on to that thought, because I want to help you guys understand this. You slimy guy. There you go. All right. So, in the midst of him attempting to get this son of a gun, it's still moving. Let's just put it down here. In the midst of him trying to acquire a colorable title through their agency, okay, they alleged that I, as a man, have to register it first before the transfer can take place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they just created an impossibility for him because I am not registering jack diddly because I don't have to. And if they want me to, all they have to do is write the order, sign the order on behalf of their principal, and I will more than happily fulfill that obligation. But that obligation don't happen for free, all right? So important to know this. If you're going to compel me to perform, I will perform. I will also be billing your ass, okay? That's how it works. It's that simple. You can either voluntarily comply, for which you gifted it. It's a gift. They discover it. It's theirs, right? Or through threat, duress, and coercion, they force you to perform. But better than that, no man shall work for free. I don't work for free. Those guys in that office didn't work for free. They're trustees on behalf of the principal doing business under the guise that they're a legitimate government. When in actuality, under Title 28, 3002, 15A, they work for a freaking corporation. And to prove they work for a corporation, every corporation has what? A professional liar. I mean a lawyer. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. A lawyer. They have a professional lawyer that backs them up so they can be engaged in commerce. The sea of trade, right? Commerce. Now the issue becomes, LaRonda Lamb, allegedly, who is the head of the DMV of the state of Nebraska, who allegedly is part of the state of Nebraska, which is a fallacy. Again, a bunch of misnomers put out there, a bunch of bad information by alleged public officials who have a duty to be forthcoming. But yet, when they don't know, instead of going and looking up the information, they just blurt shit out of their mouth frivolously that makes them liable for making legal determinations for which they're not qualified to do so. That simple. All I was in there today to do was to provide remedy, to achieve remedy in a simple form and fashion, in good faith, with good conscience, for good reason. Because they alleged that this man who acquired property from I had to have been registered by me before they could create whatever they're going to create for him so he's not accosted by gun-toting morons on the side of the road, right? This is the ignorance with public officials. He hands her a colorable title issued from the state of Nebraska, which is a separation of equitable title and legal title. Now, possession is 9/10 of the law. Does anybody on here know what the other 10th is? The other 10th, if you aren't familiar with what it is title. Now, how's title created? Well, title can be created a number of different ways. But when we're talking one-on-man, man-to-man, that title is, in fact, the bill of sale. And as the grantor, I have a fiduciary obligation to protect his rights and interest in said property because I granted it to him. So if they're going to come in and allege somehow that I didn't have the authority to grant him my property, then they need to bring forward the man or woman who claims they own that particular property. The truth of the matter is they don't own it. And they don't have a man or a woman willing to come forward under the pains and penalties of perjury, independently bonded with a hazard bond, stating a claim for which relief can be granted. So they, again, create an impossibility. All right? Are you guys following me? I don't know if I'm explaining this clear enough. I don't see any of your comments. LaRonda Lamb, running the DMV, which is a private and separate entity of the state of Nebraska, all right, which has entered into contract with the state of Nebraska. Now, when they enter into contract, ladies and gentlemen, and issue fees and everything else, they operate as mere corporations and can be sued, and they can sue, right? That's the glorious 14th Amendment that everybody thought they got freedom from. Let me tell you something. You're bringing a claim under the 14th Amendment, your ass ain't black enough. I want to promise you that. And I don't care how black you think you are. Your ass ain't black enough to bring a claim under the 14th Amendment because it deals with persons, corporations, entities. It has nothing to do with a man. Nothing. Not a damn thing. All right? And before they implemented the 14th Amendment, they turned around and disemboweled the 13th True Amendment, which was no titles of nobility shall be granted to anybody holding public office, and they shall have no allegiance to a foreign nation, prince, king, etc. When they become part of the corporation, they have to renounce their citizenship. Ladies and gentlemen, they are foreigners on your land, and that is why the Foreign Registration Act of 1938 was created. I have watched these lawyers try and gallivant around this issue, and I've even got one that was so brazen going, Derek, none of that applies anymore. None of that applies anymore. Right. Just like if I give you one of these, then I expect you to give me one of these back. That's how they explained payment to me one day. I died laughing. I can't even explain it to you guys. Here are these intelligent people with years and years and years of education underneath their belt, and they can't even tell you how to pay. But you owe. You owe, so off to work you go. Having a job is a criminal activity. Having a job, I'm going to say it again, is a criminal activity. Hey, Frank, you want to go pull that job this weekend? We stand to unjustly enrich ourselves greatly. You realize what I'm talking about? Pulling a job? Pulling a job is robbing something, stealing something, doing something that is otherwise honorable, right? Everybody runs around saying they got a job. You go to court, they ask you, you got a job? Yeah, I got a job. You just admitted to being a criminal. And you don't even realize what they're doing. Are you an employee? Yeah, I'm an employee. Great. You're subject to the statutes, codes, city ordinances, and provisions and rules that we set out because you are volunteering to be part of our system. And thank you for volunteering, and here's the effing you get for the effing you got. Right? Because that's exactly what's transpiring. Absent a crime, there is no victim. But back to LaRonda Lamb. I have sent information to LaRonda Lamb before. An inquiry, if you will. During a traffic citation that the estate had been issued, because Derek Chaton Gonzalez is not me, the man. Derek Chaton Gonzalez is the estate that they're fleecing, that they've attached a Social Security account to, all right? An exemption account. Why? Because after the gold heist in 1933, finalized in 1971, orchestrated in 1910, and signed into effect by Woodrow Wilson in 1913, ladies and gentlemen, there is no way to make a payment. On the commercial side, however, we can create our own negotiable instruments. When we create our own negotiable instruments as private bankers, we always want to do things in good faith, with good reason, for good conscience, and we want to give it for a patent right. Correct? Correct. Glad you all agree. So, keeping up with the Joneses here. I can't wait to speak to LaRonda Lamb on Monday, who is the head trustee for the principal she works for, identified as the DMV. And I can't wait to see if she's going to give me an order that I must do something. Because, again, if you give me an order, I will fulfill it. You need to sign that order on wedding signature. You need to prove that you have a power of attorney to delegate that authority to me. All right? And granted, contract creates the law. Equity follows the law. All men are responsible for honoring the contracts they enter into. Thus, ignorance of the law excuses no one. So if she gives me an order, I'll accept that order. But I'm going to bill them for it. And I can bill them whatever the hell I feel like billing them. Doesn't matter. Give me the order, I'll fulfill it. They're not going to do that, ladies and gentlemen. So they're going to create an impossibility. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. It's highly probable, because of my notoriety in the area with public officials, that more than likely somebody will call down and say, for the love of the Lord, please give that man the title and let this be settled and remedied. We do not want problems with that guy that studies for 16 to 18 hours a day about our fraud that we perpetrate on the American people due to their ignorance. They don't want me talking about it. If the state is real, ladies and gentlemen, let him come forward. Everybody says, well, the state owns that property. That's not true. The state's nothing more than a trust. It's a trust. And you can gift that property to the trust, and then you volunteer to be subject to that, the rules, statutes, codes, city ordinances, and provisions, because now you're using trust property, and the trust has an interest in protecting trust property. Thus, the trustees, the alleged government officials, are just merely making sure that that property is being taken care of. That's all it is. But the state isn't real, ladies and gentlemen. Let the man or woman claiming to be the state who alleged to own the automobile, the private household consumer good that I traded, even exchanged from one man to another. Let him come forward and say that I stole it from him or her. Do you see how asinine this whole program is? I hope this is helping you guys out. Title 28, 3002, 15A. All states are subsidiary corporations of the entity that is located in Washington, D.C. I don't know how much more clear I can make that. So that's what you saw today in the lower video. It's painfully agonizing talking to some of these public officials and their juxtaposition due to their belief, which is a lack of knowledge. Most of the gals in there, you can see it in their facial expressions, thought I was absolutely crazy. You have to pay your taxes. It's a privilege to pay your taxes. Boy, oh boy, don't I feel privileged today. Ah! That presupposes that I earn an income, right? And how do I earn an income when there's nothing in this facetious monetary system that's considered intrinsic value? In fact, the FRNs are just instruments of debt. that are obligations of the United States corporation. So, if you allege that I owe taxes, first you would have to prove that I actually made what you guys suffice or call an income. Well, how are those FRNs an income when they're instruments of debt? In fact, none of you after 1933 have ever been paid a dime in your life. Actually, we'll take it to 1971 when they finally abolished the gold standard. I think it was dear old Nixon that did that one, at the behest of the bankers, mind you. Okay? So, after 1971, have any of you ever earned a real dollar in your life? A real dollar. Something of intrinsic value, not legal tender, a real dollar. I'm gonna say the good majority of you have never done that in your life. So your entire life, you have utilized your sweat equity and received nothing in the form of a payment. Nothing, not a damn thing. And I know it's confusing. I know it's confusing because you can take an FRN note and go into a McDonald's or a dollar store and acquire abandoned property with said FRN notes. I get it. I get that it's hard to wrap your head around. Stick with me, folks. I'm going to show you some stuff that'll just blow your mind. Blow your mind. And my only intent is to help people, help me let freedom ring. Freedom it's priceless and it's not free. That's the thing. But I'm willing to do my duty to ensure that freedom continues on. Each and every one of you should be a part of that. It's not hard. All you got to do is who, what, where, when, why, and how. Those are your new 6 best friends. Every time you encounter a public official, it should be, how did it happen? When did it happen? Who said that it happened? Where were they at when it happened? How did they see it? Are they testifying with firsthand knowledge? A litany of questions should always come from you. Never statements. The statements are what get people in trouble. Making statements will get you hung up. It'll get you hung up if you're not learned enough to navigate. You can't go to jail for asking questions, ladies and gentlemen. I see that you declared an emergency with your lights. That's a statement. Could it be I merely stopped because it appears that you may have declared an emergency? Well, I didn't declare an emergency. Well, are your emergency lights on? Well, yeah, my emergency lights are on. Do you see the difference? I'm asking questions. I'm not making statements. I'm conducting an investigation because I know the law and I'm going to uphold the law to the best of my ability as a man. Because if I allow them to encroach upon my rights, I inadvertently allow them to encroach on everybody else's rights, and I have a duty to prevent that from happening. Does that make sense? Everything we're doing is in good faith. This system and everything you've learned in your life is not what you've been told. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. They're administering a bankruptcy for which you and your loved ones were pledged as surety, and the bailment receipt, which is the birth certificate, is proof of that. That is probated by the state registrar. Okay, the state registrar, when you look him up or her and you read what their duty is, again, these are titles, ladies and gentlemen. This is in the commercial realm, but they're also creating a trust. See, in the good book and in Genesis, in the beginning, it shows you what an estate is. And then it shows you what a trust relationship is and the creation of the trust from the grantor settler to the intended beneficiaries, right? Same thing with man's construct of trust. Everybody says, well, the first trust that was ever created was created in 1306, the Unum Sanctum, and it was created by Pope Bonifacius, if I recall correctly. That's not the first trust. I used to think that. If you don't go further back in time, if you don't go all the way back to the beginning, then you can't process fundamentally the truth. The truth is we were granted dominion. Not the government, not people that lord over other people weren't granted dominion. We were granted dominion. These people work for us, and it's time to put them to work. It's time to make them do their job. They're trustees. Are you going to deny the trust? Are you denying the trust? Oh, I'm not sure how to answer that. Am Jurisprudence 2D 63 Charlie, are you denying the trust? Well, if you don't deny the trust, you admit the trust, and we must proceed as trust. Trust law supersedes, right? So now that you're not competent enough to make a determination of whether it's a trust or it isn't a trust, now it becomes a trust. And who's the trustees? Well, 63 Charlie, Am Jurisprudence 2D tells you who the trustees are. the government employees, as trustees, operating on behalf of the principal, government, state of, whatever, right, are answerable to us, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, how quickly we've forgotten this. How quickly we've forgotten this. And we're confused with the plethora of information that's coming out through the news media, this mass pandemic bull pucky. Anyway, the video down below, that is not necessarily the best way to approach public officials. But if you don't stand up and do something, ladies and gentlemen, they're just going to continue on with the shit show and the charades and the shenanigans. I was arguing with a chalupa today. A chalupa wearing a mask. It was crazy, and I'm not being a dickhead about it. Go watch the video. She's literally dressed as a chalupa. And I get that it's a satanic holiday or whatever, and everybody enjoys being Christians on Sunday and participating in nefarious activity on Friday. I get that, but I literally was arguing with a chalupa today. Horrible. Horrible. We'll talk to you guys soon. Again, come Monday, I'll have some answers for you from LaRonda Lamb herself. Hopefully she's brazen enough to call me and issue me an order so we can provide remedy. I would love to provide remedy in any way that remedy can be had, and I'm even willing to take an order to provide that remedy. I'm willing to do it. If you give me an order, I will fulfill that order. I will do what you're asking me to do. When I fulfill that order, I'm going to submit you a bill and I want it paid. And then if you don't pay that bill, then I'm going to send you notice to find out whether or not it is your intent not to pay the bill. If you acquiesce to that and you do not pay the bill and you clearly demonstrate your intent not to fulfill the bill, then I'm going to come after you. The principle of the fact that that true bill due and owing now becomes trespass by way of debt, causing I, a man, harm. You see how that works? I just laid it out for you guys. It's not a threat. It's just business, right? It's just business. That's all they're engaged in is business. And as soon as you wrap your heads around how you can bill these people, watch how they change the way they interact with you. It'll be like, greetings, Derek, how are you? I'm doing very well. How are you? I'm doing good. Are you keeping the U.S. citizens safe out there? I sure am. Well, good job. Keep policing the hell out of them and serving protecting the shit out of them, would you? I will. Because they're only there to monitor U.S. citizen subject slaves. Period. End of discussion. There is nobody on this planet that's going to tell me that the government in any way, shape, or form is legitimate. And if you dare to challenge me on that, I've got 12 presumptions of law. And if you can answer them all and rebut every last one of those facts, I will entertain your brilliant mind. But I don't think there's one that can do it. I haven't found one yet. I've been through a lot of judges. Ain't nobody answering that. So thanks for joining me. I hope I see you guys on selfgovernanceU.com. As you can see, we don't just talk about shit around here. We get shit done. You know, men around the area that I grew up, we all got calluses on our hands. And not because we sit there and play with ourselves all day, because we get out there and when there's a need that needs to be addressed, we fill that need and we do what it takes to preserve freedom and a good way of life. And that's what we're lacking in this country. We need some more people to stand up and do the right thing without fear. I'm not in fear of anything. I could care less if I'm incarcerated. It doesn't matter to me because it's about the principles. It's about the principles. So thanks again for joining me. We'll see you guys soon.